riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And this is by Albert Einstein. In essence, all he's telling us is to not give up and keep on moving in life. Welcome to another exciting episode of Podcast with Sheila. Today, we are going to be hearing from someone who knows what it is like to give up in life, yet he managed to achieve immeasurable results. With me is Darren Jacklin. Darren is a business and real estate investor, a philanthropist and board of director with EXPI Holdings. Hello, Darren, and welcome to Podcast.
Hi, Sheila. I'm grateful to be here today, and thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show to make a difference.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. So what will your favorite quote be?
You know, one of my favorite quotes is, time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. So when you think about that and you unpack that, time will either promote me or time will expose me. It's just a matter of time whether I get promoted or get exposed. And so it comes down to our daily habits and our daily routines of what we're doing in our lives. And the key thing is like, you know, for example, earlier this year, I realized, you know, during COVID-19, during the lockdown, I was closer to the refrigerator because I was at home a lot more versus traveling. So I gained weight. And so guess what? Over that COVID lockdown period of time, I didn't get promoted with my health and fitness and nutrition. I got exposed. And so it works in our relationships, works in our finances, our health, our job, our career, our personal lives, and also our integrity. Because without integrity, nothing works. There's no workability without integrity. And so one of my favorite quotes is, time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time.
This is good. This is good. This is good. Tell us a little bit about Darren. Who is Darren? Where does he come from? Let's get to know who our guest is for today.
Sure. Yeah, great question. So I'm Canadian born and raised. I've traveled the world multiple times. My formative years, my younger years growing up, my backstory is I actually went to public school and I failed grade 1 of public education and was misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability. And I was labeled retarded, and it was determined by the school system to put me into special education classes. So I never went to regular public school from grade 1 all the way through to grade 12. I was in a small little classroom with special education students. And I just, at a young age, didn't feel I fit in, Sheila. It wasn't me. I just feel there's nothing wrong with me. My parents, great parents, did the best they could. They just conformed to the school system with what the experts said, that I had a learning disability and a reading disability. So I really struggled with my self-confidence, my self-esteem. And when I was 7 years of age, as we call it today, entrepreneurship, I didn't know what it was back then. I created my first little business called Rent a Kid. And in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, Canada, a city of population of less than 20,000 people, I would go out in my neighborhood, a middle income neighborhood, and I would cut grass, I would shovel snow in the wintertime and deliver newspapers 6 days a week. And by the time I was 9 years of age, I hired my best friends in my neighborhood to come work with me on a team. And we went out and just took over the neighborhood. And it's interesting, you know, I'm 49 years of age today. I feel like I'm 16 years old with the enthusiasm and energy and vitality. But my friends, we're going 40 years ago when I was, you know, 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm still great friends because of social media today with those two friends that helped me when I was a little kid growing up. And then I got into junior high and high school, struggled academically. It was not for me. I was a daydreamer. I was a kid who look out the window of the classroom and think about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And I used to get in trouble for that. I used to get in, you know, have to get sent out of class and get a talking to from the teachers about daydreaming. Yet today, I use it in my daily life as a visionary called dream building. And I go out and I dream build all the time as I'm looking at buying companies and buying real estate and growing the portfolio and growing the family foundation. And so, I barely passed public high school. In fact, grade 11, I was taken out of class one day by a guidance counselor and a school teacher. And they asked me what I want to do the question was, if I graduate from grade 12 from public high school. And so I want to travel around the world. I want to do great things. I want to serve humanity. I want to make a big difference. And they looked at each other and they laughed and they said, well, kids like you are a throwaway. Kids like you don't ever amount to much. You don't have the academic marks. You're never going to amount to much. You're not good physically because you suck in phys ed classes. You may get a job working for the government or for the union or in a sawmill or oil and gas, but you're not going to amount to much. So we don't want to get your hopes up high, and we want to manage your expectations. And so we want to in that. And so it really damaged my self-confidence because they were role models to me.
Yeah.
So I left that day and I thought, man, I hope I graduate from grade 12 and I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I did graduate from grade 12. And then I did multiple suicide attempts to end my life. I had no direction. I had no focus. I had no purpose. And my final attempt of doing suicide at driving my car at 140 kilometers an hour, 85 miles per hour towards a telephone pole, I decided to stop my car. I got scared and I chickened out. And I decided to drive myself into a 24-hour telephone crisis line prevention center. It was a nonprofit organization. And I rang their doorbell and I said, I need to turn myself in. I'm trying to commit suicide. Lady brought me in, who was a counselor, and she started to counsel me. This is back in the early 1990s. And then they referred me to a Dale Carnegie training program. And from Dale Carnegie training program, I got introduced through a lady there called Toastmasters International, which is a global public speaking and leadership organization in many countries and continents, been around for decades. Those two organizations, the Dale Carnegie training and Toastmasters, transformed my environment, my life. And it's introduced me to positive people and different role models and different mentors. And also, Sheila, there was people in that group that believed more in me than I believed in myself. And that's why I created a book called Until I Become, because until I become, I didn't know my future. I didn't know. But now I realize until I become is so important, because every one of us, and that's why I love doing these podcasts, because I'm planting seeds in people's mindsets. If you look at me as a case study, as somebody with a lot of adversities and failures and challenges who had to overcome a lot of perseverance, being labeled a retarded, being in special education, low self-esteem, a lot of fears, doubts, worries, insecurities. And what I've accomplished today in business and in finances around the world globally and statistically is just mind-boggling to most people when they research me and do a deep dive on due diligence. Yeah. But I'm a case study today of showing you that the human spirit is possible, of what you can accomplish no matter what your circumstances, no matter what your environment is, where you grew up, no matter what your limiting beliefs or belief system is. If you look at me, and I've made tons of mistakes, and I've screwed up, and I've been ups and downs, and I've been financially busted up a few times in my life, and I've been homeless, eating my next meal out of a garbage dumpster. And I've had a chance to, fly private and do extraordinary things around the world that people could only ever imagine they would see in movies and magazines today. So I've had the duality of both, but I've also learned too that at my stage and age in my life now, there's certain daily habits and daily routines that if you do them consistently, compounded over a period of time, you will produce consistent, specific, measurable, and actionable results. And I've served many people around this planet from all walks of humanity, from all different age groups, of all different skill set levels. And, I get thank you letters and cards and emails on a frequent basis from people all over the world saying, wow, that airplane ride, or me guest speaking at a conference, or doing this podcast, or them soon to be reading my book, all these different things is to me, it's about transforming the human spirit, right? And creating that ripple of impact. And that's what drives me is, acts of service is being in service to humanity, because I learned years ago on a humanitarian trip, actually to Africa, where you're from, the continent of Africa, that the secret to living is giving. The secret to living is giving. So become a go-giver rather than a go-getter.
Wow. Let's take it from here. How did you end up living on the streets, going on welfare and all that? Let's get that story.
Great question. Yeah. So when I was growing up with my rent-a-kid business and doing odd jobs around my neighborhood and looking at different opportunity zones to solving problems, and one thing I discovered is that, we don't have money problems in life. We only have thinking problems. There's no lack of financial resources on this planet. There's an overflowing abundance. What there is there's a lack of thinking, mindset in terms of solving problems. And so when I was growing up as a teenager, I was stacking cash. I was accumulating money and putting it into a bank account because I was living at home. My parents were paying all the overhead expenses. So I'd saved up a bunch of money over a period of time of many years growing up as a kid. And I had this cash reserve set aside. And when I moved out and away from my parents, I was at a birthday party, and I was like 19, 20 years of age, very cocky and egotistical and arrogant and very insecure. So, I learned years ago that confidence is quiet and insecurities is loud. Yeah. And I had a lot of insecurities, so I was very loud to get attention. Yeah. And it was all over the place. I was very loud and very abrupt. And so that just because I didn't believe in myself, I had a lot of insecurities, a lot of childhood traumas that I've worked with professional people over the years now. And I'm grateful for those men and women on my life team. So I was at this birthday party, met two guys that were related and really excited about a startup company. And they were looking for an investor. And I thought, man, I got cash. I got good credit rating. And so I just drank the Kool-Aid and I got really excited and got really elated. I'm like, hey, I'll write the check. So the next day I went to the bank and withdrew tens of thousands of dollars in cash, gave it to him in a brown paper bag. This is back in the 1990s. So things are a little bit different today with our banking system, but this is back in the 1990s. Withdrew tens of thousands of dollars in cash, give it to them in a brown paper bag from a grocery store, and then sat down at the bank and co-signed all these lines of credits. Well, what happened was this startup company went bust. It went nowhere fast. Didn't become a hero, became a zero very fast.
Oh my God.
And within 120 business days, the bank called a demand loan. And what I didn't realize, because I didn't read any of the paperwork, I was very inexperienced, very immature, very egotistical, very cocky and arrogant at that time in my life because I was very insecure. What I realized that I'd signed at the bank that day a thing called a GSA, called the General Security Agreement. And basically a General Security Agreement, people can research or Google online. Basically, it's a document from a financial institution is where you're collateralizing any assets that you have. Basically, you're giving the institution permission that if you don't follow through on your agreement, they can go after and seize any assets you got. It could be money in a bank account, it could be an automobile, anything they got, they can touch, they can monetize, they'll collateralize and take it from you. And that's what happened. I had a bailiff about 130 days later, showed up at my doorstep one day, knocked on my door. It was a Saturday morning. I was renting this place. I had an automobile that I'd worked hard for years for, saving and earning, and mowing lots of lawns and raking lots of leaves and doing odd jobs and delivering newspapers and shoveling sidewalks. And so it took me a lot of physical labor work to save up this money and protect this money. And I bought this car with it. And the bailiff shows up at the door and he says, "Are you Darren Jacklin?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're being served." I said, "What does that mean?" This paperwork drops. He goes, "We're here to repossess your automobile. You owe the bank money. The bank is under litigation with you. They're suing you." And I was scared, man. I had nobody to turn to, didn't know where to go. I was scared. I was embarrassed. I was way out of my comfort zone. So I give them the keys to the car. They took it. They sold it at an auction to pay off some of the debt that I co-signed for. And the next 7 years was a lot of peaks and valleys, roller coasters, suicidal thoughts, a lot of stress, overweight, sleepless nights. I was being sued. I had collection agencies, creditors after me. I owed money on the street. I had a bad name, bad reputation, because I was just being a nice guy wanting to help these two guys with a startup company. So what did I learn? If we unpack this, I learned some very valuable lessons I want to share with everybody. Number one is always go through a discovery process and due diligence. If you don't know what that means, don't do it by yourself. Create a team of like-minded people who have a lot more history and experience than you. Discovery process and due diligence. Trust people, but also verify what they're saying to be accurate and true. Trust, but verify. Another thing is this. I really learned a valuable life lesson I want your listeners to write down. This is something I want you to remember for the rest of your life. This is like $1 million in the bank to you. Yeah. If you don't learn this lesson I'm going to share with you right now, you can end up living on the streets. When a person with money meets a person with experience, the person with the experience ends up with the money. I'll say that again. When a person with money meets a person with experience, the person with the experience ends up with the money. I had the money, and I met two gentlemen who had a startup business idea who had the experience. I didn't do any research, no discovery process, no due diligence, no background checks. I didn't do any, understanding of their industry. All I did is I went to the bank. I got excited. I got elated. I was looking for a get rich quick fantasy that I bought into. I got a dopamine fix from it, and my brain chemicals got going, and I got excited. And what happens is when emotions are high, my intelligence was low. And I had very high emotions because I was elated, and I was getting a dopamine fix of that. And I went to the bank and I withdrew all those money, tens of thousands of dollars. And so always remember that. Another thing is too, which is very, very important, is there's 3 types of money. I'd like your listeners to write down 3 types of money. Step number 1 is calm money. It's calm money. It's kind of like a traffic light. It's the color green. So calm money, it means, you build the relationship equity with somebody where they get to know you, like you, and trust you. It's calm money. Step number 2 is cautious money. Cautious money. So when you meet somebody and they say, "Hey, Sheila, can I borrow 20 pounds from you till payday?" You're like, "No problem." That's calm money. Somebody calls you up or emails you and says, "Hey, Sheila, can I borrow 20 pounds?" Right? Because you're in the United Kingdom. You're like, "Till payday." you're like, yeah, I'm a little bit cautious. I don't know if I'm going to get this money paid back. I'm cautious. So calm, cautious. And step number 3 is nervous money. Nervous money. So calm, cautious, or nervous money. And if we reflect on our lives for a moment, just think of that friend or family member or classmate or somebody we met at a nightclub or a bar or someplace out there in the general public that we give them some money or we borrowed some articles of clothing or something. And if we trust our gut or intuition, where we're calm, cautious, or nervous, the majority of the time when we really do a gut check authentically, we'll say, you know what, I was nervous. But I wanted to look good. I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want to feel embarrassed, right? I didn't want to have shame or guilt. And, you know, because we do, a lot of times we make decisions based on emotions, right? Because we buy an emotion and we justify things with logic. And so calm, cautious, or nervous money. And so my invitation to people as part of listening to this podcast today, as part of training development, is the next time you make a financial purchase, whether online or in person, start to build that muscle, that financial muscle. Is your money calm, cautious, or nervous? Every time you do a financial transaction, just ask yourself, play the game. Am I calm, cautious, or nervous? And you'll build your gut, your intuition, your street smart intelligence. You'll realize that all of a sudden it becomes like an autopilot. Like when I go buy things now and I transact financially, it's like an autoresponder in my brain because I've done it so much timing through repetition. It's like calm, cautious, or nervous. And sometimes now when Tatiana, you know, we have a portfolio of companies and we're a private equity firm that we have out of the United States. And so we invest money and involve a lot of things. And so my team have been highly trained and developed to look at when we're doing briefings or debriefings or discovery calls, or we're in due diligence process, looking at data rooms and things like that. We're always going back and forth. Are we calm, cautious, or nervous if we're going to write the check with money? And you'd be amazed. It's a game changer when you start to apply this in your life, realizing, am I calm, cautious, or nervous?
Wow. So in essence, you're saying that we should actually be spending or giving out money when we are calm. Is it? Or cautious?
When we're calm, yeah. We're in a calm state. If we're cautious, do more research, do more due diligence, you know, get a chartered accountant or an attorney involved, get a mentor or coach, somebody with more history and experience. Don't do it by yourself as part of the discovery. See, most people, what happens is, and I'll give you an example with social media today, and I get this frequently, frequently I get messages in my inbox on LinkedIn or Facebook or other social media channels. People picture me on cryptocurrency deals and network marketing companies. You probably get them as well, all the time inundated into your inbox. And join this opportunity, get involved in this, put money into this. And what happens is people go ahead and they get excited, they get elated, right? Because a lot of, if we look at statistics in North America, for example, 78% of the United States American Canadian population live paycheck to paycheck. The average American citizen or Canadian citizen has access to about $400, whether it's US dollars or Canadian dollars, our currency. So people are always looking for the lottery ticket mentality. They're always looking for the get rich quick. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to get broke faster. I was on that track in my 20s, and I'm living proof of being homeless on the streets. I got broke faster, and I got a bad reputation, completely out of integrity, bad credit score. In fact, when I went homeless, when I co-signed these loans and they repossessed my car, I actually got evicted, Sheila, from my home where I was living. I was renting. I got evicted, and I got all my utilities cut off, got my credit card canceled, and the bank was suing me, so I couldn't borrow any money. So I had to go on welfare, and I had to go to what they call a money mart here in North America. Basically, it's like a payday loan place. I had to cash my welfare check at the money mart. And one thing I learned with money marts is they charge a lot of money in terms of transaction fees to do that. So welfare doesn't pay you much money. You're just barely getting by with the necessities. And then they take a whopping fees on the transaction to do my welfare check, because I had my government identification, my driver's license, but I had no place to live because the bank was suing me. And so I was embarrassed every time. So I was on welfare for a few months, and I get my welfare check, and I was sleeping in an apple orchard, right? Now, you remember, I'm in a first world country. And from being in Africa, being third world, like my problems, my challenges were like a dream to some people living in a third world country in India or Africa or other parts of the planet. But I was living in a first world, and I had first world problems. And so I was living in an apple orchard. I wouldn't go to the food bank because I was too embarrassed. I had too big of an ego, and I didn't want to look bad because I had this image of wanting to look good, not wanting to look bad. And I didn't want to make my parents feel bad. And my parents were great parents, but they couldn't understand why, when I left school, why did I get a job? Why didn't I why was I becoming this entrepreneur? Why was I so inconsistent with going after my dreams of once I started to be able to dream, because in Toastmasters, people started to believe in me when I didn't believe in myself. So they planted those seeds in my mind that it was possible that I actually could do things. So my income was always up and down in my 20s and 30s. And now in my 40s, I've got my money right. I'm financially independent today, but I went through a lot of struggles. And, so I know it's like to be upside down financially and be in bad debt and have a bad credit rating and have collection agencies and creditors, phoning me, sending me demand letters, and also showing up my doorstep, knocking on my door saying, hey, you owe us money. So I've been there. And also it's like to make millions of dollars. I've done both. And so I know how to not do things financially, and I know how to do things where I'm very good today at multiplying money. In fact, today, Tatiana and I with Link Foundation, which is our family foundation, we've committed $100 million US over the next 10 years towards global philanthropy projects. And I think we'll do it in 6 years. I don't think it'll take 10. I think we'll do it in 6 years. That's my bet anyways. I'm speculating here right now, but that's my bet. But, and I'm not driven by money. What I'm driven by is freedom. I like to have choices and options in my life.
Mhm.
I don't like being told what to do. And I like to go wherever I want, whenever I want, however I want, with whomever I want. I like to go to bed when I'm tired. I like to wake up when I'm done sleeping. People say, how do you do that? I say consistently is an answer. So I never used to think this way. I went through a whole mindset transition period of time. So a lot of personal professional training development and having mentors and coaches and read a lot of books and taking a lot of massive action in my life and learn from the massive action. But I'm grateful today because I know when it comes to finances, I know when it comes to growing and scaling your life or your business, there's things that you do and things you don't do. And the key thing is metric them, keep track. I didn't in my younger days metric things. I have an Apple Watch right now. I metric everything because numbers don't lie, but people do.
Sure. So how did you move from being bankrupt to where you are today? What was the first step you took?
Yeah, good question.
From there? Yeah.
Well, it's funny. So I went in to declare personal bankruptcy. I actually met with I think it's called a bankruptcy trustee. So I actually booked an appointment, went in to see a bankruptcy trustee. I was so disorganized. I didn't have any paperwork. So I had all these collection notices and demand notices. I had a few of them, but it was all scattered all over the place. Much different in my life today. Everything is all meticulously organized because I've got very smart people that run all the back behind the scenes things and dot all the I's and cross all the T's. But I was very disorganized back then with paperwork and administrative stuff. I went in one day to see a bankruptcy trustee. And she went through the paperwork that, the collection notices and all the debt I owed and from co-sign all these loans and lines of credit. And she looked at me, she goes, Mr. Jacklin, you're in your mid-20s now. It's going to take 7 to 10 years to reset your credit rating to get it back to a high credit rating, 7 to 10 years, which is by that time you'll be in your mid-30s and you'll be fine. And so she says, I can file for bankruptcy for you here in Canada. And she goes, how would you like to take care of my fee today? It's $1,600 Canadian. And I said, well, I'd like to finance it. I'm working part-time at a watermelon farm for cash. And the guy pays me every Friday when he goes into the farmer's market. And when I meet with the farmer, he pays me cash. I can give you money every Friday. So I can come in and meet with you face-to-face, or you can meet me at the farmer's market where I'm working and I can give you cash there. And she goes, no, hold on a second here. That's not the way our business runs. You pay the $1,600 Canadian today. And I said, well, I don't got any money. Like I'm flat broke. Like I had to borrow money to get here to come meet with you today, take public transit to get here. I said, I don't have any money. And she says, she said, who can you call? I said, well, I can't call anybody because those phone calls have already been made and nobody will return my phone calls because I owe them all money. She says, what about friends or family? I said, I owe them all money. And she goes, what about other people? I owe them all money. I can't call them because I owe them money. All the phone calls have been made. And I always remember Sheila, she looks at me and she takes my file folder, she closes it up and she hands it to me. She goes, well, Mr. Jacklin, it's been a great pleasure meeting you here today. We can't do business together. Good luck. Just so you know, I said, well, what is this? Like, what do I do? I need some direction and guidance. So she goes, Mr. Jacklin, you cannot afford to go bankrupt because I couldn't pay the fees. So people ask me, they go, have you ever been bankrupt? I said, I couldn't afford it because I couldn't go bankrupt. So back then I wasn't, I laugh at it now, but back then I was squirming in my chair, really scared and terrified. So I left that day thinking, what do I do?
Yeah.
So what I did is I went out there and I got a job with a national magazine here in Canada as a telephone marketer. Okay. And I saw it in the newspaper back then. And I responded to the ad of the newspaper and got the interview successfully. and I went to work making 400 telephone calls a shift, selling magazines across Canada, telephone solicitation, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. We called it home intrusion hours. And I used to call people between 5 and 9 p.m. Monday to Friday when they got home from work and they're sitting down to have family and maybe watch dinner, or eat dinner or watch television. I would call them during that time and solicit to them on the phone selling magazines. And within 7 months, I became the #1 telemarketer in Canada based on my numbers, based on my statistics of making phone calls and converting into closes of magazine subscriptions. After 7 months, my boss came to me and he said, Darren, we really, because it was a high attrition rate, high turnover rate in that industry. Everybody's smoking. I didn't smoke, never smoked a cigarette in my life, but there would be a cloud of cigarette smoke above us in our cubicles at this telemarketing office. And I'd just sometimes be coughing and nose all stuffed up, talking to a mirror. And it was interesting. I learned a lot. Like, I became rejection proof when you're selling magazines over the phone. So what happened was, after 7 months, my boss came to me and said, Darren, listen, you can't go any further. We can't pay any more money. There's no more bonuses here. Like, you've reached the dead end. You reached the peak. And I said to him, I said, Glenn, what do you think I should do? And he says, Darren, I think you should go off on your own and pursue the speaking business. You're getting really good in Toastmasters, and Dale Carnegie's taught you a lot. I think you really serve humanity in doing this. And I was terrified, scared, because I wanted that paycheck. I was getting paid every 2 weeks, and I was getting my minimum wage dollars plus my financial bonuses. So I got a little extra gravy every 2 weeks, and that felt good to have a couple $100 extra bonus money every 2 weeks. And I was attached to that, coming from a lack and scarcity mindset. And he said, Darren, you need to go off on your own. And I was totally terrified, because I was so insecure about my finances, about how I'm going to make my bills on time, because I come from there not paying my bills on time and having bad credit. I'm like, man, I got a paycheck now. I got some security coming. I got some cash coming every 2 weeks. Okay, I can keep my head above water and put some food in the fridge and keep the lights on. And I was terrified. And he said, go off. So I went off on my own. I went and knocked on a lot of doors, and I went to telephone companies, and I went and got their telephone books. This is when we used to use paper telephone books. From 1995 to the year 2000, Sheila, I made over 100,000 cold calls on my own, smiling and dialing for dollars, selling my corporate training services. And you've read my biography. From 1995 to 2015, I traveled 23 years in 48 countries on 4 continents. I personally trained and developed over 1 million people in 48 countries on 4 continents, including 157 of the Fortune 500 companies wrote me a check to transact with them to do corporate training. Like, mind-boggling when you look back at that. But I had perseverance. I hustled. I grinded. Some companies took 10 years of follow-up before they finally said yes. I had one Fortune 500 company, 17 years of follow-up before they finally engaged and said yes and did a contract with me to come in and do corporate training services. 17 years of rejection, of no. Every quarter, 4 to 6 times a year, I'd follow up with a phone call to the HR department, human resource department, and they would say no to me. And so I know what perseverance is. That's why I'm skilled at what I do now, because I know what it takes to succeed and to win, and how to persevere and overcome adversities and challenges and financial setbacks. And no matter what people are, I used to have the worst credit score. I used to be an R9 credit score in Canada. Anybody who's Canadian that's watching this, or you like to do research, or in the financial industry, research what an R9 credit score is in Canada. Basically, it's worst case scenario of what you can get for, on a credit report. I had R9, like nobody, even high risk money shark people wouldn't even lend me money. You know what I mean? It was just, there was no chance. It was too high risk me paying it back. And today, I'm very financially successful, and I've done very, very well, and have a phenomenal financial statement and balance sheet. And why? Well, I'll tell you why. So when I was on welfare and I'm homeless, I'm living in this apple orchard. I'm getting my welfare check after I cash at the Money Mart. In North America, we have a thing called 7-Eleven convenience stores. And they're 24-hour, 365 convenience stores. And I used to go to a 7-Eleven convenience store here in Canada, and I lived on less than $2 a day, Canadian dollars, $2 a day. Now, I know that statistically around the world, there's a few billion people on the planet that live on less than $2.50 a day. So coming from first world, I could relate to that. And I would go into the 7-Eleven convenience store every day and live on a hot dog and a Slurpee or a hot dog and a super big gulp, basically a soft drink, Coca-Cola, and I mixed with ice. And for a couple months, that's all I lived on every day. Now, what I didn't realize, because I was consistent every day going in and doing that, I was developing a mental muscle of financial discipline.
Yeah.
What I realized later on in my life was there's 3 steps to money. Step number 1 is to earn money.
Yeah.
Right. So step number 1 is to earn money.
Yeah.
Most people can do that around the world. We can go to work and we can earn money. We can make an honest living. So we can earn money. Step number 2 is harder for most people. That's where you got to save it and you got to protect the money. You got to protect it. Because most people, what they do when they get paid, they go shopping, they go expend things, they go pay bills, and they go, do things with it. And then they live paycheck to paycheck and they're financially broke every 2 weeks. Right. So number 2 is to protect the money and keep it safe. And then step number 3 is to multiply the money. Right. So step number 1 is to earn it. Number 2 is to protect it, keep it safe. Number 3 is to multiply it. And I am grateful for the blessing in disguise. It was an absolute blessing. And I count my blessings every day. I'm so grateful for this with gratitude that while I was going every day to the 7-Eleven convenience store over that period of time, that I was developing a financial muscle on how to multiply money. And today I use that skill and that strategy very well. And the results are incredible for me in my life of what I achieve and my inner circle, how I train and develop them as well. And so nothing's ever in our way. It's only on our way. And so I never, when things happen to me, I never say, why are things happening to me? I always say, why is this happening for me? It's a different mindset. Why is this happening to me? No. Why is this happening to me? Or why is this happening for me? It's a gift. It's a blessing in disguise. We just have to unfold it, unpackage it, and see, wow, there's a blessing here. Right? Because if we look at ourselves as human beings, Sheila, right? If we're up at the International Space Station looking down on planet Earth, we're just all these human beings running around in meat suits disguised as avatars. And guess what? We're just a network of conversations as human beings. We're a network of conversations. That's all what we are. We're a network of conversations. Anything that you and I want in our lives is going to come from strangers. I learned this as a young kid with my rent-a-kid business, knocking on doors, shoveling sidewalks, delivering newspapers, cutting grass, that anything we want in our lives is going to come from networking and having conversations with people. But there's different ways of doing it. One of the ways to not do it, which a lot of people on social media do today, is they'll reach out to you, Sheila, and they'll send you a friend request. And you'll accept the friend request on LinkedIn or Facebook as an example. And then boom, right into your inbox, they're pitching you on their product or service. And that becomes transactional rather than relational. And then you feel you're not attracted to that person. You want to withdraw and avoid from that person. So the key thing is to educate and inform people rather than pitch and sell people. A lot of people are financially broke out there. The reason why is they're pitching and selling people their product or service or business opportunity. And it's transactional versus relational because nobody knows you, likes you, or trusts you yet because you have not established and built that relationship equity yet. And that relationship equity takes time to mature and build over a period of time. But most people are running out of lack and scarcity. That's their operating system and their mindset is lack and scarcity versus abundance and prosperity. And I used to be that way. I used to live totally out of lack and scarcity. I'd go into a restaurant when I could financially afford to go into a restaurant, and I'd always read the menu from right to left. How much do things cost? And I decide what I want to eat. When I go to the petrol station, the gas station, how much is gasoline? How much are things in the grocery store? Total lack and scarcity mindset versus focus on how can I make more money? I was running around through lack and scarcity, trying to save money and trying to hoard and protect things and just contract versus expand. And what I realized through my mindset is that we do not have money problems in life. We only have thinking problems in life. There's no lack of money. You want to make money? What's the fastest path to cash? Go solve problems for other people. Next time you watch a news media broadcast, look at all the things that people are having challenges or crises or problems with. Whenever a company's laying off employees, those employees got to go someplace. Whenever there's challenges in the media, natural disasters, right? Construction, repairs, there's so many different opportunity zones that get created out of there. So turn the crisis into an opportunity zone and start to realize all the blessings in disguise. When I see things during COVID-19, my business is just skyrocketed. Friends around me just skyrocketed. Hiring people, financial growth and development, growth and scale, all kinds of things went on. Why? Because we see opportunity zones everywhere because that's our mindset. So when somebody says to you, oh my gosh, I've got money problems, I always say to them, great. You don't have enough money or you got too much money? Which one is it? People look at me like, what do you mean too much money? Friends I hang out with got money problems. They got so much financial, multiple revenue streams of money coming in, actively and passively, they don't know where to allocate it into investments, income producing assets. You know, when text messaging came out, right? Today, globally, we text message all over the world with our mobile phones. And I always ask people, what was the biggest problem that the people or person that, and I don't know who the man or woman is that created text messaging, but what was the biggest problem they solved in the world? And people say, well, advanced communication. I said, but what problem did it solve? And they go, communication. I don't have to call somebody. I have to leave a voicemail. I said, what problem did it solve? What are you solving for? Sheila, the biggest problem that text messaging solved was if I'm hearing impaired and I'm deaf and I only know sign language and you don't, we can't communicate to each other. But if I'm hearing impaired and I'm deaf and I can only communicate through sign language, if you have a mobile phone, I have a mobile phone, and we exchange mobile numbers with each other, we can now communicate through text messaging. We solved a global problem with that. So the bigger the problems that you solve in the world, the more financially you can get paid for it. I'll give you an example. You love your children very much. If I took your kids away from you and your kids were entirely safe, and you had a certain goal or dream or desire or wish that you wanted to achieve, and here's where I'm going with this. A lot of times we'll do more for other people than we will for ourselves. That's why I've dedicated $100 million over the next 10 years towards global philanthropy projects through Link Foundation, which is our family foundation. Now people say $100 million, $100 million US dollars, that's a lot of money. I don't really think it is anymore because there's a lot of big global problems that we got to solve in terms of global philanthropy. Now, the thing is, what I've done is I've dedicated my life to a cause greater than myself. So what I want you to consider thinking about, and all your listeners around the world that are listening, think about what you're thinking about is what could you dedicate your life to other than yourself? Because you'll do things for yourself, but you'll do more for others, your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, your partner, your neighborhood, your community, your faith, your religion, right? You'll do more for other people, other things, protecting the animals, protecting the environments, protecting the arts, right? All these things that you'll do. So think about in your life, what could you dedicate your life to? So you might say, hey, I'm going to start offering product. I'm just making this up. I'm speculating here. I'm gonna start offering, advertising on my podcasts, and before or after a little commercial, and we're going to charge financially for that commercial as an example. And 10% of the net proceeds from that advertising revenue is going to go to sponsor women in Ghana, West Africa that are in a village, and we're going to buy them sewing machines, and we're going to buy them beads, and we're going to be able to help create economic developments in that village to alleviate them from poverty and to empower these women to become working women in the villages. And so when you're out there talking to business owners saying, listen, I've got this podcast, we're gaining some more traction, we're getting more ratings, we're going more global, I'd love for you to be a paid sponsor in this. And just so you know, it's not about me, it's not about my podcast. I'm just getting the message out there. We're actually supporting a cause where I'm from in Ghana, West Africa. Now you will get up every day early, go to bed late, because you're on a mission now to serve, because you want to make sure these women in the village in Ghana, West Africa are being taken care of. And then once a year, every 2 years, you do a humanitarian trip. You go back there, you go meet with the ladies in the village, you sit around a campfire, you hear their stories, you hear their testimonials of the difference that you're making to the ripple of impact by you just making a decision, hey, I want to serve somebody. So that's what I've always done in my life, is I've always dedicated my life to a cause greater than myself, because then you're not working for thinking, oh, I just got to work to pay the bills every month. Because I used to do that. Oh my gosh, got to pay the bills, got to pay the rent, got to pay the landlord, got to pay the grocery store. Now there's a greater mission that you want to do something greater. And the thing is that when you're out there to serve and solve problems in humanity, whatever that is, every human being is different. Whatever that is, you dedicate your life to a cause greater yourself, money will come to you. Money will come to you. People, I was just at an event 3 days ago. I was guest speaking at a real estate conference here in Canada. Somebody asked, we're doing question and answer, and somebody put up their hand. They were asking about Link Foundation, our foundation. And I started, sharing what the mission and vision, our strategic roadmap is of what we're going to do in terms of what we're solving for and how we're metricing our KPIs, our key performance indicators, and how we're going to solve these global philanthropy projects with what we're working for with Link Foundation. I had people coming up to me at the break offering to hand me cash, So we record, we metric everything, keep track of everything, document everything. We're in total compliance and integrity, all that. But all is because I was sharing from my heart, my vulnerability, my authenticity of what my mission and vision is in life.
Yeah.
People felt inspired to want to contribute to the cause and make a difference.
Whoa.
So there's never a lack or shortage of money. There's just a lack of ideas, strategy, and follow through with action. And the key thing is, so here's one thing to consider. Something I learned the hard way. You know, I always got elated and always got a dopamine fix, Sheila, and I always wanted to look at the upside of things, and I always wanted the positives, and I always wanted the goodies and all the rewards. And what I realized with most people around the world is they don't want to endure both pain and pleasure on their road to accomplishing their goals and dreams. I always share with people that you're going to get hugged and you're going to get slugged.
Yeah.
You're going to get kissed and you're going to get kicked. You're going to get supported and you're going to get challenged. You have to have a balance, a law of duality of both. And so, you know, like I just recently in the last 8 months have taken up hiking at a very extreme level here in Canada. I'm down 31 pounds of releasing weight. I didn't lose it. I released it. See, that's the difference in mindset. When I say I lose weight, then my brain wants to go look for weight again. Because whenever you lose something, you want to go find it.
Yeah.
So when you release it, it's gone for good. So I don't lose weight. I released weight.
Okay.
So how I language things. I released the weight, not lost it. And so the thing is, I'm down 31 pounds. I'm in the best physical shape of my life at 49 years of age. I've multiplied my energy. Here's the thing to consider is with people in their lives, a lot of times they'll look at what's the return on investment, the ROI, what's in it for me? What's the return on investment? Something I want you to also start metricing in your life and keeping track of, what's the ROE? What's the return on energy? Return on energy. So when I started hiking, for example, I struggled. I was, you know, how I got to be in phenomenal shape where I'm climbing some of the biggest mountains in Canada now in the last 8 months, from starting from nothing to some of the biggest mountains in Canada, because it's a metaphor to me of how big of a game can I play? What can I accomplish safely? I also have a great hiking team that I've created and assembled with other like-minded people, where I have a lot of camaraderie and community, a lot of fun and support in terms of safety and strength in numbers. But what I realized was when I first started, I was really intimidated by some of the men and women in our hiking group. Why? Because these men and women work out 5, 6, 7 days a week at a fitness center, and they got the muscles and they got the body and they got the abs. I don't have any of that stuff. I'm on track for it, but I've got a ways to go. But you know what I realized? That if I was just small, daily, consistent, measurable steps, consistently come out over a period of time, right? Then I could get better and better. And now I lead some of these hiking groups. I lead some of these 9 to 12-hour hikes. And the men and women that I started with are stopping and going, stopping and going. Again, no disrespect for them. But what I did is I got focused. I got really, really focused on just consistently taking action. It's like reading books. So I grew up as a kid with a learning disability and a reading disability. And I was told it never amounted to much in my life until I met a gentleman one time in a Rotary International Club. I was guest speaking on behalf of Toastmasters at a Rotary Club. And I shared in my presentation that I had a learning disability and a reading disability. And during the break, one of the Rotarians came over to me and he goes, "Can I talk to you for a moment just outside?" So he took me outside the seminar area for the Rotary Club. And he said, "Listen, I just want to correct you on something. I'm a little bit older than you." He goes, "Rather than saying you have a learning disability and a reading disability, I would say you don't have that." He goes, "Let me ask you a question, Darren." He goes, "Can you read 10 pages a day of a really good book?" I'm like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Is it easy to read 10 pages a day?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Is it easy not to read 10 pages a day of a good book?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "That's the difference. It's easy to do and it's easy not to do." And that's the difference where you separate people over a period of time. It's easy to do and it's easy not to do. So it's easy to do 10 push-ups a day. And it's easy not to do 10 push-ups a day. It's easy to pick up a book and read 10 pages a day. And it's easy not to. But if you take, let's use reading a book, for example, if you read 10 pages a day times 365 days in a year, that's 3,650 pages, which equals about 12 to 15 books a year cover to cover.
Yeah.
Now people say, "Well, Darren, I don't like to read books. I'm an audio learner. I'm an auditory learner." Great. You can download Audible, and the average person over 19 years of age that has a motor vehicle, they will commute on average, that live in a major city, they will commute on average of 500 hours per calendar year in drive time.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Most colleges and universities, if you look at a semester of education, it's around 400 to 500 hours per calendar year in a semester. So if you turn your vehicle or your earbuds while you're on an airplane, I'm flying tomorrow to the United States of America from Canada here. I have my routine where I journal on the flight. I've got some reading material and I've got some listening podcast material to listen to while I'm on my flight. And so I'm leveraging time and being efficient, effective with time to constantly be absorbing. Also, what I do too in my calendar every week, and here's something I learned: if something's important to you, if you don't schedule it into your calendar, it does not exist in your life. So the things that you want to accomplish and what you're solving for in your life and what you want to accomplish in your personal life, if you don't put them into your calendar, it doesn't exist in your life. I have an iPhone. So what I do is I actually have alarms. So I have my calendar and I have alarms. So I'm always on time, because here's something I discovered about my life is the power of our word. You see, we hear in business all the time, Sheila, that talk is cheap. I agree with that, but I also agree with this statement that a lot of people cheapen their talk. Their words don't mean anything. They just throw things out there and say things, but there's no responsibility or accountability or integrity with what they're saying. And so one of the things I always invite people to consider doing as an exercise, a takeaway, is schedule some time over the next 7 days in your calendar, time block it, called thinking time. And I do this every week. I protect my time. I always qualify my time and also protect my time. And so I protect my time by also scheduling thinking time. And I schedule about 3 hours a week of just thinking time. And what I do is I think what I'm thinking about during my thinking time. I think what I'm thinking about. Later today, I'm going hiking tonight. Even though it's raining here in Vancouver, Canada right now, guess what? I'm committed to my commitments. See, even the weather today is not supportive. I'm going to get soaking wet today hiking. But guess what? I gave my word to myself to love and honor and respect myself, care of myself, my well-being of myself, to take care of who I am as a human being. So even though I'm going to get wet, I'm going to be uncomfortable, I'm still committed to my commitments. And I want you to consider, and I want people listening to this around the world, are you committed to your commitments? When things get hard, things get challenging, things get frustrated, you get impatient, you're getting rejected, things are getting uncomfortable, you don't feel good. Are you still committed to your commitments? Because success is not something we go out in the world to pursue. Success is something we attract into our lives by the person that we become. It's not something we go out and pursue. A lot of people go out and get MBAs and PhDs and college university degrees and, get on the honor roll, all that kind of stuff, the dean's list, all that kind of great stuff. And they get out there and they're unfulfilled. They're empty inside. There's no fulfillment. There's no joy. Because what happens is they're out there trying to climb a corporate ladder, a fantasy to arrive someplace that someday I'll be happy. It's wishful thinking, not going to happen. Been there, done that. What it is, success is not something we go out in the world to pursue. It's something we attract into our lives by the person that we become. It's becoming an attractive person. It's training and developing ourselves on a daily basis with daily habits and daily routines. And some of those daily habits and daily routines are non-negotiable. They're non-negotiables. You do them no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on, you commit to your commitments. And that's one thing I've coached and mentored and trained people over the years. I'm like, listen, I just want you to commit to your commitment to pay yourself first. So every time you get paid your paycheck, 10% of your net income goes into a savings account or goes into an investment account. But Darren, I can't afford that. Well, if the government came in right now, effective next month, said we're going to implement a tax, a 10% tax, you would gripe and complain about, but guess what? You would adjust to it. So I'm going to impose a family tax on you right now, an investment savings tax on your life, because we're going to start getting your money right. I impose that you're going to start reading 10 pages a day. I impose that you're going to do date nights once or twice a month. I impose that you're going to spend thinking time. And you start to create these daily habits and daily routines. And that's why I live my life. I have structured daily habits and routines. Now, some people say, well, Darren, that's too, I can never live my life that way. Well, guess what? I used to do that too. But if you're going to go out and raise money, you want to be in a great, phenomenal relationship, you want to travel the world, you want to do lots of things, people are always watching and observing you. And when you have structure and a foundation, you have workability, people want to be around you.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. I've met many people in the nonprofit space and bless them. They're great-hearted people doing amazing things around the world. but a lot of these people could not write a check for a small amount of money. They wouldn't be able to pay their bills on time at the end of the month. And so they're great at giving and serving humanity and loving people, but back home, in terms of getting their house in order, they don't have their money right. And that's so important. That's one thing we did with Link Foundation, with our family foundation, is that we wanted to get our money right first. In my 40s, I focused this decade in my 40s, because I'll be 50 next year. This decade in my 40s is all about getting my money right. Next decade for me is all about legacy. And we're actually planning for now a 250-year legacy plan with Link Foundation for Global Philanthropy. 250 years, 3 generations out, we're thinking about in terms of solving for down the road. Most people aren't even thinking about what a 2-week vacation is going to look like, and we're planning for 250 years. Isn't that mind-boggling? Well, we've got a great team of people around us that we can, plan this out in terms of process mapping and strategic road mapping and metric and all this, so that we can hit our milestones and our measurements. And we can make this with the intention, with our foundation, to eventually go bankrupt, go bust. That means we've solved the big global philanthropy problems around the world, and our mission is complete.
Right. Darren, so if you had, I think that from your story and where you've come from, it looks like you've actually had to go through the mill to learn the roadmaps to come to where you are today. If you had an opportunity to relive your life, is there anything you would do differently?
Yeah, I would have not hurt so many people in my early days by my integrity. I realized that without integrity, nothing works. And I didn't have integrity in my younger days. I didn't mean anything to me, didn't understand it. I didn't realize the impact, the ripple of impact I would have with my words and my actions. And so going back now, when I heard people talk about integrity, I'm like, yeah, I know what that means. But I really didn't know what that means. I thought I knew from an intellectual level what integrity meant, but I didn't embody it and didn't live it. My life did not demonstrate integrity. It demonstrated a lack of integrity all over my life. And what I learned and discovered in my life, when I got my life into integrity, my finances changed, my bank account changed, my relationships changed, doors of opportunities opened about me, global travel started to happen over a period of time. Because what I realized was, one of my, years ago, I had a mentor sit down with me one day. He goes, Darren, you're so full of it. You're so out of integrity all over your life. It just reeks with lack of integrity, like bad odor. You just reek of bad integrity. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm a man of integrity. And I got very confrontational, very aggressive. My ego started speaking to him. He goes, really? He goes, you open to an exercise? I said, sure. He goes, I'm going to give you 7 days. I want you to start at number 50 and count down to number 1. I want you to come up with 50 areas in your life, personally, professionally, where you're out of integrity. I'm like, I'm not going to come up with 50. He goes, oh, Darren, you'll fill the pages. Trust me. You don't know what I know. You're going to, trust me, Darren, you're going to fill the pages up. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. He goes, do you accept my challenges? Yeah. He goes, good. The clock's ticking. We'll see you in 7 days. So I'm like, screw you, buddy. You know what I mean? And I left, right? A little cocky and arrogant. And I'm like, yeah, 50 things where I'm out of integrity. Yeah, right. So I call him up later that night. I said, listen, I'm confronting her. I can't get with 50. He goes, good. Start calling people that are in your phone and just ask them if there's an area of breakdown of out of integrity with you and that person. And start with your immediate friends and family. Start with them. Start with the people who love and care about you the most, that you've let down and disappointed. So I start calling people that are in my phone, that are in my address book. And I start calling them and I'm like, hey, is there a breakdown in integrity? Just be straight with me. Don't be nice. Just be straight with me. Yes or no. And you know what? You know what's interesting, Sheila? I had a few hundred out of integrity. A few hundred, not 50, a few hundred. And I went to work to restore my integrity on that list of a few hundred out of integrities, where all these breakdowns to have breakthroughs. I started to do my integrity list to restore. And I was way out of my comfort, very uncomfortable, very scared, very embarrassed, very raw and vulnerable and real. Like I was way out there. I did not want to do this exercise. Last thing I wanted to do in my life was do this integrity test exercise. Didn't want to do it. But I gave my word. And you know what was interesting? My mentor was challenging me because he didn't think I was going to follow through. And what he also wanted to teach me was, by me disappearing, because my thought was, well, I'm just going to not going to return this phone call. I'm going to stand him up, not see him next week. I'm just going to disappear. And that was my thought process. I'm just going to disappear. That's my brain telling me, just disappear. Don't ever see this guy again. But who am I hurting? Myself. Not hurting him. I'm hurting myself. And what I realized and what I discovered for myself was, this guy's testing me to see if I'll follow through. Because again, In business, talk is cheap, but most people cheapen their talk. And my words didn't matter. I just spewed words out of my mouth, but they didn't mean anything. I'll give you an example, Sheila. Let's say, example, you're going to have you do podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something I just want you to reflect for a moment, and your listeners can reflect. You probably interview a lot of people all the time. And there's probably some people, when you reach out to them and you send them the information, you confirm the date and time here to interview them, you're like, okay, they're going to show up. And other people in the back of your mind is like, do I have to send them a calendar invite? Should I phone them? Should I text them? Should I email them? Are they going to show up? I'm getting dressed up for this. I'm getting prepared. I got a busy life and schedule. Are they going to show up? But yeah, and so I want people to just take inventory for a moment. Just think about people in your life. That when you have a birthday party or a family get together, or a function or a barbecue or some kind of event where you spend time and energy and money on, you invite people, you just know, you tell them once, it's in their calendar, they're going to be there. If something happens unexpectedly, they're going to be in advanced communication, let you know that, hey, there's road construction, there's a flight delay, there's a motor vehicle accident, but I'm going to be 15 minutes late. But they're in advanced communication with you. And other people, you're like, I wonder if they're going to show up. Do I have to send them a reoccurring calendar invite? Do I have to phone them, call them, email them, text message them? Do I have to go pick them up or arrange transportation for them? So just think about it. See, I was the one that when you would ask to come, you didn't know if I was going to show up or not.
Oh,
And that was the feedback I got from people. Darren, you're unreliable.
Oh, dear.
You're unreliable. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, you're unreliable. That's why we don't like you and trust you as much as we like you to. That's why we never do anything with you. That's why I don't ever give you any referrals or recommend things to you or ever do anything with you, because we don't think you're reliable. You're not consistent. You're chasing shiny objects and squirrels, as an example. You're always out there chasing something different. So I discovered years ago to be focused, stay in my lane, be consistent. And today I've got a great reputation and a great high levels of integrity as a report card. And I've got a great team of people that work with me, my group of companies that hold me to the highest standard, and not only as a team, but as a leader, as a visionary of integrity. And that's so important, because without integrity, nothing works. There's no workability. And so I invite your listeners around the world to just look at your life, inspect it, do an audit, and just start to write down. You're going to be uncomfortable. Listen, you're not going to want to do this. You're going to be uncomfortable doing this. It's not a convenient exercise. But if you want to have a breakthrough on the other side to an extraordinary life that you can create and develop by going through this and build a strong foundation where people trust you on your word, like your word, you can take it to the bank. It's just like a handshake. Some people around the world, they shake their hand. It's like that, it's a done deal. That your word is power, not your word is cheap. Your word is power. And that's what me, when I give my word to something, I make it happen. I get it done. And if not, I will renegotiate, but I'll be in advanced communication, but I make it happen. And if something should happen that's out of my control, then I will restore my integrity by being, I'll give you an example, Sheila. A few weeks ago, I went to get on a Zoom call. There was a group of us on a call. I didn't know anybody. There was a set meeting agenda, meeting attendees. And I go to get on a Zoom call, and I always like to come on a couple minutes early, right? Just so I'm on time, in place, settled into the call. And Zoom decides to do updates on my computer.
Oh, yeah.
And they've happened to you as well, right?
And
I'm like, oh my gosh, my computer needs to shut down and reset. And then my Mac, I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I didn't have the cell phone number of the guy that was organizing the meeting. I only had an email, and he was running the meeting and getting the meeting set up, bringing people in. He wasn't checking his inbox, his email. So I get invited to come on to this call, very high level call with some influential people internationally. I come on, and there's all these people on the call, in the Zoom video conference call. I come on, and they introduced me. And I said, listen, I need to restore my integrity. I gave you my word I'd be here on time and place, and I'm not. And I'm late. And you know what? The guy, the organizer, is like, oh, no, Darren, that's okay. That's don't worry about it. I said, no, I am worried about it. Because there's people on this Zoom video conference call right now I've never met. And in the back of their mind, they're not saying this, but they're saying, can I trust this person? Is this person reliable? This person just disrespected my time. They show up 7 minutes late on this call, and they barge in here, and now he's gonna try to speak to us. Like, who is this guy? And I said, listen, I need to just slow things down. Let's just pause. And I just took time. And I looked at everybody on the screen on the Zoom video conferencing call. And I said, listen, I gave you my word I'd be here on time and in place. And a lot of you see me as a global leader. Somebody's playing a really big game and serving humanity. And I want to apologize to each and every one of you that I am late. And my apologies. And what I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to make sure that I'm going to schedule time in my calendar. When I have an important high-level meeting like this, I'm going to schedule breakdown time a couple hours early, 15 minutes in my calendar to test all my electronics, test all my equipment, just in case as a contingency plan. I'm going to schedule time in my calendar to just in case a breakdown was to occur.
Yeah.
Which we're dealing with a breakdown right now.
Yes.
And as I need to restore my integrity with each and every one of you, and this is not how I want our relationship to go forward. Going forward, you can rely on me to be on time and in place. Does anybody have any questions? And the room went silent on Zoom, and they all looked at each other. And a bunch of people said, you know what? Thank you for honoring your word. Thank you for restoring your integrity. And thank you for not stepping over it. Because yeah, Darren, I was one of the people in the back of my mind saying, is this person reliable? Can I trust this person? This person, first impression is this person is showing up late 7 minutes and coming in here. Why should I listen to this person when they don't even honor and respect me? And they don't even appreciate my time, me qualifying my time to be here. And now we're 7 minutes late. And this guy comes in here like this. So just take a look in your life. Just take a look. Where in the last week, couple weeks, month, have you done that with friends or family or business associates or colleagues where you just stepped over things? And go back and phone that person. Listen, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we went out for lunch and, you know, I apologize. I arrived 15 minutes late to the restaurant and you're sitting there waiting. And that's unacceptable. And I apologize for you. I value you as a friend or as a business colleague. And I'm not going to do that again. And just really get uncomfortable doing this work, this professional training development. And you'd be amazed at the lifestyle that it will create out of this by just restoring your integrity and creating workability where there's breakdowns all around you in your life, because breakdowns create breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And what I mean by a breakdown is something that's not working. So I mean by a breakdown, it's just not working. There's no workability in there right now. It's like my finances. I was a disaster in my finances. There's no workability. And so I went to look, where am I out of integrity in my finances? Where did I promise things I'm not following through on? One of them was with my landlord. I told him the rent check will be here on this date. You know how many times I kept on asking for extensions every month? And then I'd go and renegotiate the extension on top of an extension. And he's like, I just can't wait to get rid of this guy. He's such a liability, such a risk to me. I just can't wait to kick him out of here. But the laws where I was living, the tenancy laws, were not easy to kick the tenant out. But I know the landlord didn't like me. And I went and sat down with the landlord and said, listen, this is unfair. Listen, I really appreciate it. And I went and restored my integrity with my landlord. And I went and restored my integrity with people around me. I called the utility company. I said, listen, I know I'm calling you. Like, I just work in a call center. I don't care. Can you put this, take notes on this in the computer? I'm just restoring my integrity. Put notes on this. I just called in. I want to restore my integrity.
I think that this thing about the integrity you just mentioned is a big thing. And most of us, let me just make it, most of us fall short and we take it so for granted. You know, I'll be there at 6 and then I'm late 6:30 and I don't think it's a problem for me to.
You're on African time.
Yeah.
You're on African time, right?
Yeah. African time. We say, what time will you be here? 6:30. We don't give you a definite time. We say 6:30. So we are within, but that's not right. And you're always late, or people just can't commit. You know, it's like, I can't make it. So what should I do?
Well, in our group of companies, within the Darren Jacklin group companies, some of our companies, we actually locked the Zoom room when we're doing virtual meetings.
Yeah.
We actually locked it. If people are late, we locked them out. And we record that and people know. And then they get knowing that, hey, and then people on the team, like, man, like this person should be on probation, or maybe we should get rid of this person. Like, people start to notice behavior. Here's something to remember. Behavior never lies.
Yeah.
Behavior never lies. Time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And we make it when people like our team with my group of companies, it's not easy to come work with us. We put you through an interview obstacle course intentionally because we're a high performance team.
Yeah. And
we don't want you to come into our environment and pretend you're a high performance player. Give you an example. We always use this analogy. Okay. It's like we're going to a party. We're going to go to a swimming pool party. We're in somebody's backyard and they got a beautiful pool and they got barbecue and food and beverages and music and stuff. And we're having a really great time. And people are going in and out of the swimming pool, having a great time. And all of a sudden one person decides to pee or urinate in the swimming pool. What happens? Everybody's gonna get out of the swimming pool and you ruin the experience for everybody.
Yeah.
So what I always say when people are doing discovery or due diligence or recruiting or hiring people, bring people into their environment or their inner circle or their teams or their family, who's going to be that person that's going to pee in the pool? Like people all the time are wanting to introduce me to people all the time. I'm always getting email introductions. You're going to connect with this person. And we're open to it, but we want to interview the person first. And the reason why is we don't want that person to pee in our swimming pool and create that ripple of impact.
Yeah.
Because we're a high performance team with high integrity. And we're like a Navy SEALs. Like our word is law. Like our team is tight. We're high performance. Now it took a while for us to get there, but now we're really, really strong as a team.
Great. Well, it looks like the challenges you went through, Darren, really, really shaped you. And for me, so I've always said it here that we should always cherish our challenges. Like today, I read from a post that Paula White put out. She said, cherish your current status because it's a stepping stone to bigger testimonies. And I think that is 100% true. So wherever you find yourself now, it may be difficult, it may be tough, but cherish it because it's preparing you for something bigger. So you have had to battle with fear, disappointment, rejection, people putting you down, being evicted, sleeping on the street, all those things to learn different, should I say tests? To pass different tests. To be able to, because you had to learn how to save, how to make money and not spend carelessly. You have to learn how to, and I think all of that is experience is something we can never buy.
It's the greatest teacher, right? It
is.
I mean, a lot of people who say, well, I've got an MBA or a PhD or went to college. That's great. What can you do with it? Right? What can you do with it, right? What can you actually do with it? It's like I buy companies, we do mergers and acquisitions with some companies. And sometimes when people say, well, I want this kind of budget for marketing or social media marketing. I'm like, there's no money for that in the budget. Like, what do you mean? Go out and get organic and authentic and creative. Come together in a team, get the flip charts out, the whiteboards, and brainstorm and collaborate with each other and team build and dream build and come up with some different organic ways of doing it. Yeah. Right? And if you just hand people stuff, then they're become entitled to it. It's a different mindset. Get creative. See, I didn't have any money. Everything I've done is organically through hard work, perseverance, peaks and valleys, focus and discipline, and following up and following through, and then restoring my integrity. It came to that. It came, I look at now my life, and people don't see in the early days of making all those phone calls and all that rejection, and 2, 3, 4, 5 months behind on my phone bill sometimes because I was making all these phone calls, all these long distance phone calls across North America. And the phone bills are piling up, and I'm making a phone call thinking it's the next call I'm going to make. Is the phone going to be dead? In fact, I actually was on a call one time with a guy who's a good friend of mine today, who I actually was on a phone call with him one time on a coaching call, and my phone got disconnected. And it took me almost a week for me to get my phone restored because I had to move around, find ways to get some money and make things happen. And so things happen in our lives. And the interesting thing was, Sheila, I thought I was the only one that could hide it. So when I was dealing with all this financial pressure and owing money on the street and collection agencies calling me and creditors calling me and envelopes with bills not being opened up and just avoiding all that, I thought I could hide it. And it was really interesting. When I didn't have money, I wouldn't go out in public. And then when I had money, I was out there in public spending money. And then people say to me, we know when Darren's got money, he's out socializing. When Darren's broke, he's hiding. And now I see that with people. When I travel, I can see behavior because behavior never lies. So on social media, I see these guys out there that have joined some new opportunity and they're sitting in front of a Lamborghini knowing that they're financially challenged. But yet the public doesn't know them because they haven't verified who they are. And they're selling this fantasy, this dream. And they're showing people all this lavish lifestyle. And yet behind the scenes, if you did your due diligence, those people don't live that way. But they're selling the dream. They're selling the sensationalism. Right? So people can get a dopamine fix and buy their products. I've seen many times over the years traveling and people are selling real estate courses. And yet, business in a box on how to buy real estate. And the person, if they did their due diligence, doesn't even buy real estate, doesn't even have a portfolio of real estate. And yet they're selling real estate courses as a platform salesperson speaker in front of a room. It's just out of integrity. Incredible. Wow. And so that's why you've got to do your due diligence. And, there's a lot of great people in the world. I'm not being doom and gloom. There's a lot of great people, but you still got to, do your research and do your due diligence. And, it's like in business, you hire slow, fire fast. When you meet new people, build up that time, that relationship equity, get to know you and like you and trust you. Right? Don't just meet somebody like I did in my early 20s at a birthday party, and the next day I'm taking tens of thousands of dollars out of a bank in cash to give it to these guys in a brown paper bag, and then co-signing loans and lines of credit, and then 120 days later getting my car repossessed and being on the street homeless because I got excited.
Yeah.
Got elated. What an opportunity.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Darren, it's been great having you on the show. I want us to talk about one other thing I saw in your write-up about Nasdaq, that you rang the bell twice for that. How did that happen? How did you?
Because that is,
it's the second on the list of stock exchanges, isn't it? For Nasdaq. So
Nasdaq is one of the largest stock exchanges in the world. Yeah.
Wow. How did you get there? What was the journey like?
Interesting story. So in 2011, I'm traveling the world doing corporate training seminars. And I wrote down in my journal that I want to get onto paid advisory boards and paid boards of directors of companies. And I went to all these people in my network, and I was traveling, doing corporate training seminars and speaking at conferences. I was telling people I'm going to get on paid advisory boards, paid board of directors in 2011. And people laughed at me, made fun of me. Like, come on, Darren. You don't have a formal academic degree. You don't have an MBA or PhD. That's a fantasy. Yeah. Well, in 2013, I got a phone call from a family here in Canada, high net worth family I've known for decades. And they said, hey, Darren, we're looking at investing in this startup company. Would you fly back at your own financial expense from Vancouver to this part of Canada, your own expense? Most people say, I'm out. Why would I pay my own expense?
Yeah.
So I had the money put together. I flew back there and I went and met with this gentleman, incredible smart guy. And he had a company that he was creating, a residential real estate company, a cloud-based real estate company with no bricks and mortar. And the guy's a genius, a very smart guy. And I believed in his mission as an entrepreneur. Didn't quite understand the business model back then in 2013, because it was very fast and very early stage and very forward fast thinking, a few years ahead in the future. And that little company today has 65,000 people in 19 countries around the world at the time of this recording. It's a publicly traded company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. And so I had a chance now twice to go to New York City and ring the closing bell at Nasdaq, not once, but twice. And I'm working on a couple other companies right now. Hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll have a chance to do it a few more times as well. It's just an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful for the team of the people that run the day-to-day operations of this company. I've done well and serve a lot of people, a lot of hard work. And I'm just so proud of everybody in the company and the leadership and the team, internationally. We're in 19 countries, again, 65,000 people in 19 countries. When I started with the company, we had a couple hundred people in the entire company.
Great. It's been great having you today. You've shown us that everything is possible in life and that we shouldn't allow the words of people to bring us down, rather to push us up. You've also taught us that a little bit of fear is good, because when you had to be pushed out of your phone company to start up your own business, you were scared to start. But then it tells that the fear of thinking of not paying your bills, being homeless again, not putting food on the table and clothes on your back, pushed you to start your business and made over 100 calls alone, solely. And that alone is teaching us a lot. I think we've learned a lot. I've been quiet today on the podcast, and I've been soaking in a lot of the things you were saying. And I think you had said a lot of potent things today. And I believe that our listeners are going to enjoy. What will be your final message to our listeners as we wrap up?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
Realizing that you're not alone, that, we're either coming for a problem, we're in a problem, or we're heading towards a problem. And that's the condition of being a human being. And the key thing is don't do it alone. Something to consider is that most of your goals and dreams do not require your actions. It's about making requests to other people and asking for help, asking for support. And don't isolate yourself. I did that for a period of my life, and I struggled in silence. And you'll realize that when you put yourself out there, vulnerable, deal with the real stuff at risk, people will help you. People will reach out and want to connect with you and help you. And so you're not alone. And so don't suffer in silence is a big thing. Ask for help, ask for support, ask for mentorship, ask for guidance, and be open, because when the student is ready, the teachers will appear in your life.
I'd like to say thank you very much, Darren, for coming on podcast with Sheila. Is there anywhere our listeners can connect with you?
Yeah, they can go to darrenjacklin.com, and I'm on various different social media channels. You can go to darrenjacklin.com and connect there. If people want to order a copy of the Until I Become book, it's untilibecome.com. And I really dive deep into the strategies and unfold a lot of things that can really serve you in your life I think a book is a great tool that you can take with you. And so it's untilibecome.com. And I look forward to hopefully seeing some of your listeners around the world in person, if not connecting to them online and social media. And I'm grateful to be here and be in service and make a contribution.
Great. It was lovely having you on podcast with Sheila today, Darren.
Thank you so much.
Listening in, this is season 2, episode 26 of our podcast series, where we've been bringing your way seasoned guests with inspiring real life stories to share with us. Do not miss out on all these lovely experiences. Subscribe and be notified when a new episode is released. We have a video presentation of this episode on our YouTube channel. Just search for Podcast with Sheila on YouTube and you'll find us. Until we meet again, have a lovely day.